we've been doing drone strikes, throughout Pakistan, Afghanistan, Yemen, and some of the other countries in the region. And we have been very concerned about the strikes because, first, civilians are being killed, and at a significant rate, which I'm going to tell you about in a second, right? Secondly, they've now started executing U.S. citizens without any due process. And we've been telling you there's no court hearing, there's no trial, there's not even a judge saying, yeah, you've got some evidence against that guy. The most famous case is Anwar al-Awlaki. He was born in New Mexico, U.S. citizen, was in Yemen. The government assures us that he was a bad guy. We hope he was, but there was no court that ever tried that in any way, shape, or form. It's just the executive branch made a decision and executed him. They have executed other U.S. citizens abroad as well with drone strikes. Now, one of the guys raising a concern is Michael Hayden. Now, the reason this is relevant is Michael Hayden is not a civil rights guy at all. In fact, he's the exact opposite. I have criticized Michael Hayden endlessly when he was the CIA director for the Bush administration. The reason I did that is because he trampled on civil liberties. He's the guy who did the warrantless wiretapping program. The one that thought, Fourth Amendment, who cares? Let's just violate everybody's privacy and wiretap them without getting any court orders. Michael Hayden is worried about our drone strikes. He thinks they go too far. Here's two things he said. Quote, right now, there isn't a government on the planet that agrees with our legal rationale for these operations, except for Afghanistan and maybe Israel. And it's only a maybe on Israel. So he's saying basically we're all alone here, as usual, as we break international laws. Now, here's the killer quote, though. Here's what he continued to say. We needed a court order to eavesdrop on him, meaning Awlaki, but we didn't need a court order to kill him. Isn't that something? Well, that is something. Think about that, guys. If you're abroad and you're a U.S. citizen, now, if you're an average guy from Kansas, they're not likely to execute you. I get that. But you know what? If there's no rules and nobody overseeing it, and it's a bunch of guys in the intelligence agencies, and now the president has to sign off if you're a U.S. citizen and you're going to get executed. But you don't know what intelligence they're giving the president, and you don't know who the president's going to be. I mean, maybe some of you trust Obama. I suspect a lot of you don't think that that's the way to go, because that's not supposed to be our system of laws where we just trust the president. But imagine if it's President Newt Gingrich. You trust him that he's going to execute all the right guys without any due process whatsoever? And what happened to our Constitution? Even Michael Hayden is worried we've gone too far. What kind of world do we live in? And then when you look at the drone strikes, are they really careful? Well, Glenn Greenwald has a terrific piece on this, and he's quoting other major news outlets. For example, ABC News was reporting about a 16-year-old Pakistani boy, Tariq Khan, that was killed in one of these drone strikes. And his 12-year-old cousin was with him as well in the car. They're both dead, okay? But that's not the interesting part of the story. The interesting part of the story is that within that ABC News report, they just, as an aside, put in, drones often target people who show up at the scene of an attack. And Glenn rightfully asked, hey, wait a minute. You're telling me after you've already done the drone strike, when people come to rescue folks, whether they're injured, whatever it might be, you hit them again? I mean, that would seem to be a gross violation of international law. It could be considered a war crime. Turns out that is what's happening. It's the Bureau of Investigative Journalism reporting for the Sunday Times. And these guys, as Glenn points out over and over again, are extremely conservative in how they count civilians. Unless it is completely documented that it is a civilian, and it is so hard to document in Waziristan, they do not count it. So they're underestimating by a large shot here. But listen to the things they say. A 3-month investigation, including eyewitness reports, has found evidence that at least 50 civilians were killed in follow-up strikes when they had gone to help victims. More than 20 civilians have also been attacked in deliberate strikes on funerals and mourners. Again, we're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to hit funerals, let alone the guys who are going to help the injured. And by the way, one of our defenses is technically it might not be a war crime because they have to be wearing a red cross or a red crescent. If they didn't wear the right emblem, they might be, it might not technically be a war crime when we kill the people looking to do help the injured. And by the way, is this part of a pattern? Glenn makes another great point. Remember the Apache helicopter video that we got because of WikiLeaks? Remember what they did after they did their initial round of killing the people on the scene, who turned out to be, by the way, Reuters journalists, some of whom, and the others were civilians. When people came to help the injured, they shot again. So this isn't an accident. This is something that happens again and again. So, and reporting between 2009 and 2011 include the New York Times, CNN, Al Jazeera, Associated Press, ABC News, confirm that as many as 45 civilians were killed, including 10 children and 4 tribal leaders, in one bombing alone. That was the funeral of Quaz Wali Massoud. In fact, internal reporting shows that he was killed so that they could bomb the funeral. They were hoping that one of the top operatives that they were targeting, Baitullah Massoud, would show up at the funeral. There's something wrong, man, when we are purposely killing people so we can bomb their funerals. Here's another part. This is actually a United Nations Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial executions. So this is the guy that has the specific expertise on this. He says, quote, allegations of repeat strikes coming back after half an hour when the medical personnel are on the ground are very worrying. To target civilians would be crimes of war. Now, the Obama administration assures us, of course this isn't happening. You're being ridiculous. John Brennan is their top counterterrorism advisor, and he has told people in hearings about drone strikes specifically in Pakistan, in the last year, there hasn't been a single collateral death because of the exceptional proficiency, precision of the capabilities that we've been able to develop. Laugh along with me. An absurd lie. Of course that's not true. Here is the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, their reports. Quote, a detailed examination by the Bureau of 116 CIA secret drone strikes in Pakistan since August 2010 has uncovered at least 10 individual attacks in which 45 or more civilians appear to have died. Come on, our bombs are that smart that in the middle of a funeral they're going to be able to tell who's a civilian and who's not and only kill the non-civilians? Nobody in their right mind could possibly believe that. And when you hit a car with a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old traveling in it, you think the bomb goes, let me not kill the 12-year-old civilian. Of course it can't distinguish that and doesn't distinguish that. And that number we just gave you was just in relationship to Pakistan. When you look at the broader number, again, the Bureau finds, quote, that since Obama took office 3 years ago, between 282 and 535 civilians have been credibly reported as killed, including more than 60 children. Have we lost sense of, well, morality? And by the way, efficacy. Do you think this works? Every day, and according to, again, some of the journalists covering this, there are more and more Taliban in northern Pakistan. Why? Because you killed their brothers and their sisters and their aunts and their uncles. So that whole clan joins up to fight you. It doesn't work. Even if you go past the deep immorality of killing civilians, let alone to me, the worst of it is when people go to pick up the injured and we bomb them again on purpose. And let alone the U.S. citizens we're executing without due process. When you get beyond all of the constitutional problems, moral problems, etc., it doesn't even work. Yes, we kill some of the top Al-Qaeda guys. I get it. And by the way, when we killed bin Laden, we did not do a bombing. We landed guys on the ground. And I said that was a much better way to go. And I gave President Obama credit for not just doing an indiscriminate bombing. Okay? But when you look at all the other indiscriminate bombings, it doesn't work. And it's deeply immoral. We have to change it. Unfortunately, there are no Democrats or Republicans who want to change it. This is the one thing, of course, we have bipartisan agreement on in Washington.